You'll notice that everyone is off to the sides and the freeway is wide open. Does it appear that way to you from your viewpoint, Craig?
Oh, most definitely. As you can see, just crossed over a section of lots of pedestrians on the freeway. The on-ramp at around Venice is just jam-packed with people, spectators looking out of their vehicles, looking on at the procession here, northbound 405.
Okay, Craig, Stan and I were just speculating about what the Highway Patrol and LAPD will do when they arrive at the Sunset Boulevard off-ramp. Now, it's possible that that car may turn off at another point, and the access to his estate could be reached, of course, from Wilshire, or there is another turnoff, as I recall, near Waterford, which would then let him go under the freeway to Church Lane and then up to a Sunset Boulevard. So I think that what we want to see, if you could accommodate us and our viewers, would be that when he gets to Sunset Boulevard, to see what happens next if the car gets that far.
Yes, it'll be quite interesting to see what is going to develop here in the next 5 minutes or so. Currently approaching the 405-10 interchange northbound.
So you're right near the Santa Monica freeway, and it looks as though the car is proceeding at, what would you estimate, 40, 45 miles an hour?
Yeah, approximately that speed is between 35 and 45 miles an hour, I would estimate.
Uh-huh. Okay, then from the I-10 interchange up to Sunset Boulevard is only going to be maybe 3 or 4 minutes more.
Oh, most definitely. We're just coming up on the interchange at this time into the West LA area, and if indeed someone is in communication with the vehicle, and that is a distinct possibility of getting off at Sunset en route to the Brentwood location, and possibly that could be a termination point.
It does look like he's going past the 10 turnoff, doesn't it?
Yes, currently at the interchange at this time, and he's continuing northbound on the 405.
Okay, now if I'm just making a guess here, he's either going to turn off at Waterford or at Sunset Boulevard. It's possible to go to the next turnoff and then double back to get to Sunset. But
yeah, he's right in front of me.
Craig, do you see any blockades on those off-ramps up ahead?
Unfortunately, I don't see anything like that. It looks pretty smooth sailing up the 405. I don't believe there is any roadblocks up ahead.
Okay, I didn't mean across the freeway. I meant on the off-ramps. Of course, that may be a little bit out of your sight. It'll probably come into your view within the next 60 seconds or so.
Yes, the off-ramps are quite blocked. It appears that a good number of people are pulled on the right shoulder and are out of their vehicles watching this procession proceed up the 405 freeway here. It's in this area, it's becoming more prevalent that people are stopped alongside the road and are watching this as it passes them by.
What off-ramp are you coming up on now? You should be approaching pretty close to Wilshire Boulevard, aren't you?
Coming up on Santa Monica Boulevard at this time.
Right.
And that off-ramp is not blocked. Mm-hmm. And the vehicle is still in the far left lane, right, continuing northbound. Let's
mention to our viewers that there are only 3 off-ramps now remaining if he's going to go to that Brentwood estate. There's the one coming up on Wilshire, which are probably approaching now.
That's affirmative, Hal.
Okay, and then right after that, probably another 30 to 40 seconds, you'll be at Waterford. We'll see if he turns off on Waterford, but he's in the left lane.
Yes, left lane, currently left lane. You can see other traffic there with the vehicle. The left lane and the other traffic are pulling off to the right shoulder at this time, ahead of the vehicle.
Okay, now it's crucial to see if he starts moving over to the right lane.
It doesn't appear that will be the case due to the number of vehicles blocking those right lanes.
Craig, Eric Spillman is right there at the intersection of Sunset and the 405. Eric, can you read us? Go ahead and tell us what you see.
Well, first of all, we're just coming up. We're going north on the 405. We're coming to Sunset Boulevard right now. And I can tell you that I've seen CHP officers stopping people from getting onto the 405. The southbound 405, as you know, is a parking lot with everybody stopped and out of the cars looking, waiting for this chase to come. But the Sunset Boulevard off-ramp is open, and it appears that they think that he might get off here. the whole way going north along the 405. It is an amazing sight. Along the right-hand shoulder, people have pulled over, many of them carrying signs such as signs reading things like "Save the Juice," "Go OJ." People are literally cheering him on as he travels northbound on the 405, and we can only assume that he plans to get off at Sunset and go towards perhaps his home.
All right, now, Eric, do you hear us?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we have been speculating that he would get off on Sunset. He must be approaching you right now. He is still in the far left lane. We'll let you know if he starts moving over into the right lane. Now, remember, there's an exit on that freeway right past Sunset Boulevard. I believe it's Moraga Drive.
There is. When you come to the Sunset Boulevard overpass over the 405, it is crowded with people who are outside on the bridge.
He's moving over now, Eric, moving over to the right, which means he may take that Sunset Boulevard off-ramp. He's now moving over to the right lane.
Go, follow.
Craig, are we approaching Sunset Boulevard
Go,
now?
follow.
Yes, we are.
Okay, we're approaching Sunset Boulevard.
Al, I believe it is, driving the car, and it became a spectator sport. I mean, there were people running up onto the embankment, sort of cheering and waving as the car went by, almost as if it was a high-speed parade.
And where are you now, Chris?
We're coming up on the interchange of the Santa Monica Freeway and the San Diego Freeway, headed northbound.
So what is the clue that you can give us as to... Now, he's pulling off now.
Making a left turn. The intersection's free, and he's clear, and now making his left turn westbound on Sunset.
All right, he must have gone right by you, Eric.
Well, he has, and we're staying ahead of it. We're going to his mansion, believing that he's going there, but it was an amazing situation on that overpass there. There were people running around on top of there. I don't know how he's going to be able to drive through all those people. All along Sunset Boulevard, there are people stopped as well ahead of the chase. We can only assume he's going to his home on Rockingham in Brentwood.
Okay, Eric, that's exactly what had happened. He did take that Sunset Boulevard off-ramp, as we had speculated, and now he is proceeding west on Sunset Boulevard. He just went past Woodburn and will be approaching Barrington Avenue.
And there's a red light at Barrington. There are lights on this. I don't know what he's going to do, how he's going to respond to traffic lights. He hasn't had to cope with that, but... there's quite a lot of traffic lights. We're hearing the sirens behind us now. He is right behind us. We're hearing the sirens. The police have their sirens on. Both sides of the street have pedestrians.
All right,
They've just passed us at Barrington.
He just went past Barrington.
Just passed us at Barrington, followed by the sheriffs. They're Orange County Sheriff, Santa Ana police officers who are in pursuit.
Okay, Eric, it's only now probably 3 minutes at the most, I would say, to his home in Brentwood.
That's right. His home west of the 405 on a street called Rockingham.
Right.
He will have to make a right turn onto Rockingham, and that is where his mansion is. It looks like there's at least 10, well, maybe not 10, but 7 or 8 Santa Ana police, Orange County sheriffs, and highway patrol officers following him, as well as regular private citizens on motorcycles who are following this chase now. And we're right behind them.
I know, how far behind the Bronco are you, Eric?
I'd say we're less than a mile behind.
Okay.
What's going to happen is that street, Rockingham, is a very, very narrow street. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to work when he tries to make that right turn onto Rockingham and go up towards his mansion. The mansion itself is about a mile or so up Rockingham on the right-hand side.
Yeah, that's right, Eric. And also, once again, if we can continue to speculate, it will be interesting to see if he is allowed to go into the mansion itself or whether he will be stopped short of it.
That's a good question.
Remember, there are people there in that mansion, and I don't think law enforcement wants any kind of siege to take place. Then again, it is possible he may have said on the phone, all I want to do is see my mother and children, and then I will surrender. So that is also a point for speculation, too.
It's hard to say what in the world is on his mind at this point.
That's right.
But he is getting very close to Rockingham. We're getting very close. He's going to be making that turn very soon. There he goes. Okay, he has made a turn.
Yeah, he's off Sunset now.
He did not make a turn on Rockingham. He turned on a street called, hang on, Bristol Circle, I think.
Yeah,
Bristol Circle North is where he turned off of Sunset.
Yeah, he'll make a left turn now to get over to his street, which is Rockingham.
This is the back way that you can get to his mansion.
That's right.
Okay, we're following not only black and whites with their sirens on and their lights flashing, but again, there's about 10 private citizens on motorcycles who have joined the pursuit as well.
And we can
Very
see
close to the house now, very, very close. We're right in the neighborhood. We are right on the block where his house is.
Okay, and he is pulling in to the driveway.
Coming around.
Someone is going to the door right now, Eric.
Okay, we're pulling up. Let me tell you what I can see. We've just turned the corner. It's total chaos here. Motorcycles, black and whites, people running around, officers getting out of their cars with their batons, people running, they're keeping our cameras away. They won't let our cameras through.
Okay, I can understand that, but we do have an aerial view, Eric.
Okay, we're gonna show you a picture from the ground here as soon as we can, but the sheriffs are not letting us get up close enough to actually see what's going on with the naked eye. So you have the best viewpoint from the helicopter there. They're stopping us.
Is that something out of this, pointed out of the window there, Hal, on the passenger side?
Well, it did,
Or is that just the mirror?
that might be the mirror.
But he's right in the courtyard of his estate.
Yeah, and he was evidently not driving, obviously.
No.
So he would be sitting right over there, possibly on that side.
But the gates were open, he went right through, someone came up to him and then was chased away by whoever the driver was, and two uniformed officers or uniformed men came up and pulled him away, flashing lights on both sides, and we are right here at a standoff.
Now there's a big crowd here developing as well. All the people who were chasing him have now stopped here.
Well, we will stay right on that Ford Bronco, and we will be waiting, just as everyone who is watching with us is waiting, to see what happens.
There's a reflection of light on the windshield, so you really can't see into the driver's seat.
We must recognize the fact also that we're dealing here with so many variables, so many imponderables, the state of mind of OJ himself, what he has said on the phone when talking to other people, perhaps law enforcement. It's very, very difficult to figure out just what the next move is going to be.
Craig, what do you see from up there in the your pilot's position?
Well, Stan, we've got the vehicle in the driveway with flashers on. Someone approached the vehicle initially, and then believed the security guards or police officers pulled them away from the vehicle. And right now, it's just it's a waiting game, it looks like.
Where are the law enforcement officers? Can you see them around? Are they all outside?
It looked like they came out of the house, or were in the house and came out of the house, and then went back into the house. At this point in time, I do not see too many law enforcement people in and around the vehicle. However, that's not to say they could be close proximity to the house and the vehicle around the grounds.
Craig, let me recommend that we stay right on your position there, because I have a feeling that the car didn't just drive in there to sit there, that something is happening right now. I would suspect there's some kind of communication, cellular communication between a cell phone and either the house or law enforcement in that area. Some kind of negotiation must be going on.
Yeah, I would assume that would be a good analysis of the situation. Here right now, it appears that to resolve this possible conflict here, that communication would take place, so everybody would know what was going on, so there would be no unexpected surprises to cause some problems.
Yeah, we don't want to just guess at what might happen, because we don't know any more than the viewers who are watching with us, or than you do sitting up there. And I think the best thing we can do is just watch and wait and hope that this is resolved with a peaceful resolution.
Hal, we just got some information over our radio. The police helicopter is requesting us to gain an altitude because of the number of helicopters over the scene here is interfering with voice communications with the vehicle, and there appears to be negotiations going on from the vehicle with either obviously you know, I would speculate a cellular phone, as you mentioned earlier.
Right. Okay, well, if you can gain altitude, we certainly want to cooperate in that respect, not endanger anybody. And as we say, we hope that this will end peaceably, but we'll see what happens here. We'll stay on that Ford and see what happens. But I do suspect that there are negotiations going on right now.
And the fact that the officers of the scene have kind of stayed the other side of the wall, there's no one rushing or standing around, it's just the white car sitting there in the courtyard.
Yeah, I think his motivation, he said, was to see his mother, who was at the estate, and perhaps the children. Now, the children may not be there. We don't know that. Maybe they're being brought there, and there may be some kind of negotiation that perhaps if he could see his mother and the children and make some statement perhaps or talk to them, that maybe then there would be a surrender to the police. Did you gain altitude? Are you up at a...
Yes, Hal, we sure did. We're about 2,100 feet above the scene. Okay. That's mean sea level, which puts us up about 1,500 feet above the ground.
You still have an excellent picture, and we can see everything going on at that point, Craig.
Yes, this excellent vantage point from this location. As you can see, as details develop here, we should be able to see quite clearly what will take place.
O.J. Simpson wrote a letter to his children and to his mother and then to his friends. And his attorney...
Yeah, that letter was read this afternoon, and what it did was to proclaim his innocence. He claimed that he was innocent innocent of the charges of murder in the first degree, 2 counts of murder in the first degree, with special circumstances. I think it's just a matter now of waiting to see. Do you see any other law enforcement activity in the area, Craig, as you look down?
Yes, as you can see on the perimeter road here, there is quite a number of vehicles that were in the pursuit with the OJs Bronco. They have all positioned themselves around the house, and I suspect that there are quite a number of officers surrounded the house at this time.
There were evidently officers inside the house also.
Yes, that's what appeared as we came up. Someone approached the vehicle initially and was pulled away from the vehicle by what it looked like some sort of officers. I could not tell their uniforms.
You know, Craig, to put it in one kind of perspective, the belief earlier was, when the letter was read at his attorney's office, at Mr. Shapiro's office, the view was that he was a fugitive from justice. Well, he is not a fugitive in one respect anymore. We know where he is, and he is, you know, there was speculation he might be out of the country, maybe hiding someplace. That is not the case anymore. That situation has now changed. O.J. Simpson is back at his home, and this is not a friend's home or any secondary home. This is his primary residence. Where he has been all day is difficult to speculate. He was out in the valley, then down in Orange County, and now he came back up the San Diego freeway and has come home again. I doubt that he will be leaving again. The police now know where he is. We have found him. The door is opening, and let's see what happens now. We'll watch with you. This is the driver's side of the vehicle.
Okay, someone just got out of the vehicle, approaching the front door, dressed in black, and entered. Looks like they entered the front of the house there. Possibly O.J. Simpson at this point in time. From this vantage point, it was difficult to see or positively identify that individual.
In the brief view that we had, whoever that individual was, whether it was O.J. or not, the person did not appear to be carrying a weapon.
No, it didn't appear that at all, and in fact, they walked rather casually to the front door. So, So it'll be interesting to see what develops here.
Yeah, the reason I mention that is because the reports were that O.J. did have a gun to his head as the car was driving up the 405 freeway. So there did not seem to be a weapon for that person who walked into the house.
Right, Hal. We're going to reposition here and possibly get around to the other side of the vehicle so we can possibly see inside that open door. We're going to come around here and see if we can't get a different vantage point to possibly get some additional information.
Now, the best we can determine, there is still one other person, at least one other person in that vehicle. Is that correct?
At this point, from the information that I've gathered up to this point, it appears
right,
that someone
came
just
back.
approached back to the vehicle and entered the vehicle. Let's see if we can't get around this tree here.
Maybe you can come back the other way so we can...
A civilian. Okay, that is the man that got out of the car. That presumably is Al Cowlings. From this aerial shot, it looked like that man is bulkier and stockier than O.J. Simpson is. But they are pretty much, they're both big men.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the man who got out the driver's side door. We presume that to be Al Cowlings, who was driving. We're not sure at this point in that 911 call whether it was Al Cowlings who said that O.J. Simpson had a gun to his head, or whether it was O.J. Simpson himself saying that he had a gun to his head. One can assume, I think, rather safely that Al Cowlings is having a conversation at this point with somebody inside that vehicle, that someone, presumably O.J. Simpson, perhaps this is the conversation between two longtime friends that will resolve this odyssey this afternoon and this evening without any more violence, without any more bloodshed.
This is just one of two different vehicles that authorities had been searching for today. They had also put out an all-points bulletin for Simpson. They were searching for this white Ford Bronco that belongs to Cowlings, and also Simpson's black Mercedes. There's been no sign of that whatsoever. So it appears if the two are in this vehicle...
Now, Al Cowlings, we believe that to be Al Cowlings, holding his hand up, his palm up, perhaps toward the police officers behind him, pointing toward the front door to O.J. Simpson's home, obviously having a conversation with someone inside at this point. Now, unfortunately, now Al Cowlings is the man we believe to be Al Cowlings, is obscured by that tree, but...
As you can see, obviously they're negotiating and talking
to police officers.
to police officers that are in the house. Back to the vehicle, so it appears that someone else is definitely in the vehicle.
Yes.
And there's an intermediary there discussing things with the police.
They were gesturing toward something behind, in the back or toward the rear of the property there.
Okay, here's I believe a man is pleading to negotiate with people here, the police obviously, and it's obviously very stressful down there from these pictures, as you can see. A very delicate situation taking place as we watch here.
Now, we do know that there was at least one gun in that car.
It would be very interesting if anybody on the ground would possibly able to get some audio here of this gentleman.
He's quite upset at the moment.
Yes.
Quite emotional here, which would seem to dictate the stressfulness of the situation, and hopefully this type of situation would not escalate into something a little more dramatic.
And both of the officers
appear to be calming the individual down and reassuring him that things are safe.
Well, there's no doubt, as we mentioned before, that O.J. is in a particularly agitated state of mind. That is, I think, is a truism. Consequently, what goes on from here on is very difficult to ascertain. I would suspect also that his lawyer is going to be involved in these negotiations also. But it does appear, and this once again is just guessing, that O.J. is still in that vehicle and probably on the passenger side. That seems to be a fairly logical deduction, I think, because the person who got out is doing some kind of negotiation or talking rather than dealing with law enforcement and talking to somebody in the car.
Yeah, most definitely. That's what it appears to be.
Hal,
Yeah.
Eric Spillman now is live on the grounds of the House. Let's switch to him right now. Eric?
Well, Stan and Hal, unfortunately, we can't see as well from our vantage point as you can from yours. We are about, I'd say 500 yards away from the driveway where the drama is all taking place. And as you can see, there's a line of black and whites, Highway Patrol, Orange County Sheriffs, and LAPD patrol cars with their lights flashing all the way back down towards Rockingham. And
Eric, let me just mention, it looks as though something is going to happen right now. The person in the car just moved toward the entrance of the doorway.
And Hal, Stu Nahan just called in and identified the gentleman standing there in the courtyard. It is Al Cowling.
Yeah, it is a professional football player and his
And
best friend.
close friend,
best
yes.
friend.
Played ball at SC with OJ, and he was the man driving the car, and he was also the man with OJ Simpson at the house in San Fernando Valley.
Right. Now, he's backed away from the vehicle, and LAPD inside the house.
Just inside the
I would think
doorway.
that what you're going to see is, well, once again, we're speculating, but I would suspect that OJ is in that vehicle and will probably come out of that vehicle. He didn't come all this way to sit in the car.
Now, everyone at the scene, I know everyone hoping for a peaceful solution to this entire scenario.
Jan, he's standing right out in the open. There are two police officers just inside the door.
Right.
At least two. There may be lots more. Right?
Two that we've seen at this point, yes.
And then he had his hands moving in a very emotional manner, and what they were saying.
Right, it was unclear who he was speaking to, whether he was speaking to law enforcement officials, perhaps, there by the wall, or maybe even neighbors, bystanders who were there. It's hard to tell from this point. But at one point, yes, he was very emotional.
Copter picture acting up a little bit here, but they'll have that stabilized.
Yeah,
in just
that
a moment.
only lasts for a couple of seconds. A little bit of noise in the picture, but so Al is now going back to the vehicle.
Critical, as we pointed out before, is the fact that they believe that any type of intrusion, especially by the media, could trigger a confrontation, could trigger something to happen. If you look ahead of me here, I'm not sure if our photographer can get a shot here, but Steve, you can pan off to the right. If you can pan right, Steve.
Al, I think we're going to stay with our helicopter picture. If you just describe for us what you're seeing. Okay, now we've got a split screen and we can see what you're talking about, Al.
Okay, very good. As I said, nothing apparently from the house, what you had seen before.
Okay, Al, to just update you and the rest of our viewers, the man we believe to be Al Cowlings.
This is Larry King in Washington at CNN Studios, staying atop this scene for you now through Fox 11. We have just been told that two photographers who tried to run across the lawn have been arrested by the police. We have affirmed that Al Cowlings is apparently negotiating. He was the driver of the car, the longtime Simpson friend and teammate at USC. There are police in the doorway. This is the driveway to the O.J. Simpson house in Brentwood. He's driven through 2 counties, and we followed him all the way. That's a police car behind him. And O.J. is in the car, apparently. Cowlings is now either by the door. Let's go back to Channel 5's coverage, KTLA.
Back behind the yellow tape, they're so far away that they're not seeing anything. They're being kept back by police. We have seen a number of police officers going in, looking as if they were SWAT team members, people wearing the bulletproof vests. They just sort of arrived here on the scene.
Well, what's interesting to us, Eric, and we're looking at it, and you and I both have different perspectives. What's interesting to us is that he is staying in the vehicle, not getting out. He obviously came back to his home to be at his home, to be in the home. But he's not in the home. He is staying in the vehicle at the present time. I suggest there's some quid pro quo here. There's something he is waiting for, so that he is going to stay in the vehicle and probably still has that weapon. They're going to stay in the vehicle until something happens. What that something is, we don't know. We can only speculate, but that, I suspect, is what's happening right now. He could be waiting, as we said before, Eric, for Robert Shapiro to show up on the scene.
And then the three officers standing there with no protection in front of them, not apparently worried to the dangerous situation, but they've been out there negotiating, obviously, is what they're doing.
Right, they've been speaking. There's been communication going on either between the police officer there and Al, or perhaps even OJ and the police officer are communicating at a distance, but within view of each other.
You know, I'm sure that he has a cellular phone there, because we've been informed of that, and I'm sure that a lot of stuff's been going on over that cellular phone.
But you can actually see the officers speaking.
We see officers running in now.
Yeah. 2
officers running in beside those patrol cars, wearing the bulletproof vests.
You know, we do have to put in
But police, according to the scanners, are listening to him. They've been very, very upset, of course, with all the helicopter traffic overhead, saying it's been extremely difficult to hear. I heard at one point they were yelling to try and get the helicopters out of there. I don't know what happened with that. But they are, according to the police scanners, talking to OJ on the phone from inside the house, trying to negotiate something.
All right, Jane. Now, where are you in relation to Al Nipo, who's about a block and a half south of the house?
I have no idea. I am, I would say, a block due east.
Okay.
And there's a big crowd here. Of course, people, I just don't know what to make of it. Jovial, laughing, running to the scene, having like a party.
Well, and that's what Dr. Tom Linden, the psychiatrist we had on earlier, the man who's been talking to O.J. Simpson inside is, and we see police officers in the front door of the house now, Jane. Police officers standing there, openly standing there, right, talking apparently to the man who is sort of in the middle, literally, between O.J. Simpson and the officers. Officers at the top of your screen, O.J. Simpson in that vehicle at the bottom of your screen, and the man we believe to be Al Cowlings talking to both sides.
It's interesting to note the way the 2 officers were standing there. We can assume that they're wearing any kind of bulletproof vest that they can, but they were not, in a way, protecting themselves. They were basically just standing there almost casually talking to the driver of that vehicle. Al Cowlings looks like he is still attempting to talk to them and relaying perhaps some information to Simpson, believed to be also in that vehicle there.
Going back to what Dr. Linden was saying, is that it might be a very natural human reaction to want to stop and wave to a man who is in deep, serious trouble, not only legally, but obviously psychologically as well. But Dr. Linden pointing out that that was probably the worst possible thing that any one of us could have done, because while we meant it as a show of support and sympathy, it might well be the agitation factor. Yes, go ahead, Jane.
It appears, from what we're hearing on the scanners, they are trying to put a phone call, perhaps, from O.J. through to his mother. They're trying to arrange that right now.
Jane, is there an indication that his mother is in the house, or is she somewhere else?
I get the feeling she's not there by the way they're talking.
Okay. We should point out that Mrs. Simpson
but
lives
I'm
in...
not sure about that, Chris. You know,
okay.
some of this is spotty and...
Right. Well, she lives in San Francisco, but she obviously was down here in Southern California yesterday for the burial of her former daughter-in-law, Nicole Brown Simpson, and we had thought perhaps that she was staying at her son's home before journeying back to San Francisco, but perhaps she has already left. The indication being now that they are trying to hook up a police, or a telephone patch, that is, between O.J. Simpson on the cellular phone in that white Bronco parked in his own driveway in Brentwood, and his mother.
In case viewers are perhaps just joining us, we should perhaps let them know what has led up to this. At about 6:45, this white Bronco was spotted driving along the I-5 freeway. Authorities started following that vehicle. They figured out that it was the vehicle they'd been searching for, the Ford Bronco that belonged to Simpson's longtime friend, Al Cowlings. They had followed that on the I-5 to the 91 freeway, then to the 405 freeway. It exited Sunset and went directly to the home of O.J. Simpson.
Al Cowlings has just walked from the driver's side of the vehicle back toward the front door of O.J. Simpson's home. As Jane Wells was telling us, the police are trying to work out a phone contact between O.J. Simpson and his mother.
Actually, if you can hear me, Chris.
Yes, go ahead.
They're trying to get the phone number. They're trying to get the phone number so they can hook it through.
Okay.
Again, we have more people running down the street here.
Now, there are a number more police officers, Jane, and I'm not sure what you can see from your vantage point, but a number of police officers standing a little more openly now than they had been, although they are on the street side of a hedge that surrounds O.J. Simpson's property, and it is starting to get dark.
Well, I don't have a visual on the house.
Okay.
We're a block away.
All right,
But I'm glued to my scanner here
there
because
you
that's
see,
the best information I'm getting.
There you see the entire neighborhood, Rockingham Court, north of Sunset Boulevard in Brentwood. As dusk starts to fall, another news helicopter going through the camera, or the scene there. The police...
Courtyard empty and 4 men talking in the doorway.
Well, it's going to be getting dark pretty soon. The sun sets, I believe, around 8:04 today. It's 8:20 now, so the sun, well, it's 8:18 I have, so the sun set about 14 minutes ago.
We have with us over here John Duncan with the LAPD Public Information Office. Can you tell us what's going on over there? Is there negotiation taking place?
We're not going to discuss what's taking place here at this time. We'll get back with you in a little bit. You're just going to have to bear with us. It's a real sensitive point in this thing, okay?
Okay, officially, we're not finding out anything from the police department on what is happening. That's John Duncan. He's with the LAPD Press Relations Office.
Well, there's clearly negotiation going on, regardless of what he said or not. They're not just sitting there looking at each other, I can guarantee you that. And I think that what's happening is there are negotiations going on both at the house, at the doorway to the house, and via cellular telephone. And those negotiations that are not going on over telephone seem to be with OJ's friend Al, who is acting as kind of a courier of information between the vehicle and officers in the house.
And he's just approached the car again. And as of yet, we've been unable to identify the man in street clothes there, and the tie and the shirt, standing in the doorway with the officers. It's unknown who he is.
There's a crowd of people here who are yelling, "Juice, juice, juice."
How many folks are would you estimate are locals there, you know, neighbors, and how many are from the...
I don't think there's a whole lot of locals here. These are people who watched the drama unfold and then followed it to this point. A lot of them were on motorcycles.
That's interesting. Where did all the motorcycles come from?
Well, I don't know, but there was a whole bunch of them who were following. I guess it was easier for them to maneuver, and they just kind of zipped in and out of traffic and followed the pursuit to this point.
Interesting that the flashing lights have not been turned off. They've been on since the time the car arrived at the house.
Craig, up in the copter, how is the light situation? Is darkness setting in?
The house where Simpson and Cowlings were, and both men were gone. And that resulted in an all-points bulletin being issued all over Southern California, and for that matter, all over the country. Robert Shapiro, his attorney, said that at the time, O.J. Simpson had about $60 on him, that he was going to be able to take that much to jail with him. This, because it's a special circumstance death penalty potential case, there probably would not be any bail allowed for O.J. Simpson, although the law specifically does not preclude bail in a capital case. It is almost never, if ever, in anybody's memory, granted. Although I suppose that Robert Shapiro could have made arguments in terms of the amount of bail, and we keep him under armed guard and with an electronic bracelet and that sort of thing, but that all becomes moot now while we wait for the hopefully peaceful end of this part of the O.J. Simpson drama. Yes, Jane, go.
Is Al Cowlings still, you can see, I can't. Is he still in the car? Has he left the car?
He is still at the car.
He is at the car, Jane. He has been out of the car for about 20 minutes now, but he is most of the time stationed at, you know, the driver's side. The door is open, and he is standing between that open door and the driver's seat, talking to O.J. Simpson inside.
Okay, because they had been talking about trying to get him out of there.
From the picture that we see right now, Jane, we can see that Cowlings is still at the vehicle. It looks like he is still relaying messages. It looks like right now, although it is getting darker and harder to see from our Sky 11 picture, we can see that Cowlings, a very tall, a large man in a black outfit, is talking perhaps to Simpson in the car, and then has been going back and forth to the house or making gestures back toward the house where authorities are and family members are. So yes, he is still there.
And there are still police officers in the front door. Jane, let me ask you, when you said they are talking about getting him out of there, based on your listening to the police scanner, by him, do they mean Al Cowlings out of there, or do they mean O.J. Simpson out of the car?
Cowlings. They wanted to get Cowlings away from the scene, but I don't want to, I really don't want to go too much into what they have been talking about that way.
And let me assure anyone that at the point that the authorities deem that any of this coverage is detrimental to their efforts to get O.J. Simpson out of that car safely, it's not only safely for O.J. Simpson, of course, but safely for the police officers, the police negotiators, Simpson family members, anybody out there. The instant that the authorities believe this coverage is detrimental, then we will stop this coverage.
This is certainly a bizarre turn of events for this evening. Around 5 o'clock, it was when Simpson's attorney had held a news conference saying he had no idea where his client was at that time. A friend read a letter that almost came off as a goodbye type of letter, with Simpson saying he had nothing to do with the murder of his wife, his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson. He also wrote at the end, "Don't feel sorry for me. Thanks for making my life special. I hope I helped yours. Peace and love." He says he's had a great life, great friends. It was a handwritten letter. He said, "Please think of the real O.J. and not this lost person." And perhaps that is what many people were thinking as they watched this white Bronco drive by on the freeway. And they were stopped waving their arms and cheering and waving to the vehicle that carried O.J. Simpson, we believe.
Getting rather dark now.
Remembering the O.J. Simpson that we all knew and loved as a hero.
Getting very dark now in Brentwood. We do see a man in what appears to be a white shirt, sort of lounging against the door jamb, the front door to O.J. Simpson's house. The last time we saw that doorway, there were some uniformed police officers standing there rather nonchalantly. And it's getting dark now to the point that it's very difficult to tell what's going on, particularly with Al Cowlings wearing dark clothing. It's becoming difficult. And obviously the police want to keep the agitation factor down. There are no, as you can see that, no external lights on the property, although certainly there are floodlights on the landscaping in O.J. Simpson's estate. And it looks almost as if they have turned the lights off on that police car that was behind the Bronco in the driveway from the instant that the Bronco pulled into O.J. Simpson's driveway. That police squad car had its headlights flashing as well as its signal lights on top on the light bar. And it's difficult to tell now whether the signal lights are still going, but the flashing headlights appear to have been turned off.
Chris?
Yes, Jane, go.
Well, the radios are very quiet right now. Interesting, often I guess what happens with these things, apparently police, LAPD had a cell phone that was provided to them, and they don't know their own phone number, and they've been trying to dig that phone number up. I suppose so somebody can call them.
So you don't know at all, Jane, if they were able to get through to Simpson's mother as they were trying to do?
No, I haven't heard that yet on the scanner.
Naturally, Jane, now that I mentioned that it appeared that the headlights on the car had been turned off on the police car, we see that at least the left front headlight is still flashing as it was from the time that the car pulled in, but just at the left front. It appears that the right front has either burned out or is somehow off, and the light bar is not flashing. There is not very much light there at all.
We're continuing to have people come into this neighborhood, a lot of young people. Hold on.
Okay, Jane. This is Jane Wells monitoring police scanning, the police scanner, police radios.
They are saying that he is attempting to phone them, but is having trouble. doing it.
Okay.
Maybe that his battery is dying. Well, we can understand what...
Simpson is attempting to phone them, Jane, to phone authorities?
Yes, phone back, I assume, and you know what happens when you do that, that he is trying to phone them back in the house.
Always, and this is something we need to point out, the very fact that O.J. Simpson is talking, not only with the authorities now, or at least trying to talk to them now, but the 911 call he made earlier, that is a very hopeful sign for a police negotiator to hear some clue and some hint, get the idea that in this case it's O.J. Simpson, but that someone is willing to talk and wants to talk.
Interesting to note, Jane was saying how there were people moving into the area where she was, which is a little ways from this house. It's a very calm scene as you're looking at this Sky 11 photo of the Brentwood mansion of O.J. Simpson. Not a lot of movement going on there. Media and neighbors, residents, citizens have been kept and moved farther away from this scene as authorities are trying to deal with this situation here. Not a lot of movement by police officers either. You can assume that this is being dealt with through the negotiators at this point in time.
Chris and Christine?
Go ahead, Jane.
Go ahead, Jane.
Jane, go.
They're now talking about trying to get another phone to Cowlings to give to O.J.
Okay, Al Cowlings being used up to this point as a verbal intermediary, and now apparently as a physical one as well. Perhaps, as we sort of remarked a moment ago, perhaps the cellular phone in that Bronco has had battery problems.
But Chris, they've also remarked that he appears to be in a rather emotional state, understandable.
When you say he, you mean Cowlings?
I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder. I loved her, always have, and always will. If we had a problem, it's because I loved her so much. Recently, we came to the understanding that for now, we were not right for each other, at least for now. Despite our love, we were different, and that's why we mutually agreed to go our separate ways. It was tough splitting for a second time, but we both knew it was for the best. Inside, I had no doubt that in the future we would be close friends or more. Unlike what has been written in the press, Nicole and I had a great relationship for most of our lives together. Like all long-term relationships, we had a few downs and ups. I took the heat New Year's 1989.
This is Larry King in Washington, staying atop this scene, now night in Brentwood. We understand something is breaking. Let's go to our other affiliate, KTTV, Channel 11.
That is a police vehicle that is there, and there is also another police vehicle at the other gate and an unmarked unit as well.
What about the crowd there, Al? That grown much?
You broke up a little bit. Your question again?
The crowd, neighbors, residents coming out looking loose?
They're still being kept about, I guess, 2 blocks away from the south. We have a little bit closer view, being only a block and a half, but as I said, still rather obscured. There has been, throughout this whole ordeal, there has never really been any real excitement except for the time that they knew that Simpson apparently was coming here. And as I said, they have been very easygoing. I should point out that perhaps 15 or 20 minutes ago, they did have a couple of fire department paramedics that were here just in case, considering there may have been any type of injuries, but they are kind of in a wait and see, as we are, as well as the police department, it appears. But as you pointed out, it seems as though we may be very close here to a resolution.
It is to be hoped, but as we've said earlier, Al, at this point, of course, there is no hurry.
Okay, we have some new information here. Well, basically, it's just talking about the pursuit.
Well, now it says he has been arrested in his driveway. Now, this is off the Associated Press, City News Service wire, that says that O.J. Simpson has been arrested in his driveway. We repeat, that is off the City News Service wire. We have no confirmation of that. It's very difficult to see from the helicopter any further shots in the driveway, any further views in the driveway. And Al Naipo and Jane Wells are down the street
Let's go to Jane to see if she's hearing anything. She's been monitoring the police scanner. Jane, are you hearing anything at all about an arrest?
No, it has been completely silent, so it could very well be that that is exactly what's happening.
All right, we're hearing now, Jane, that police and perhaps O.J. Simpson are walking. Whether they're walking toward the house or down the driveway, we can't tell. But certainly if O.J. Simpson has surrendered, he will be handcuffed, taken into custody. Certainly will be then taken to jail, but we have no confirmation.